I've been making videos for this channel since about 2011. I think I did 900 videos so far, and there's one topic and one question that gets asked more than anything else, right? And I literally get thousands of emails and comments. This one is absolutely number one. How do I get hired as a 3D artist? What do I need to do to get a job as a 3D artist? What about the interview? How do I prepare? Well, that's what this video is about. Let's jump in. Here we go. Well, before we begin, guys, a little disclaimer here. Everything I'm going to tell you in this video is based on my personal opinion and personal experience, okay? So if your opinion or experience is different, that's totally okay. For those of you who get some value from this video, that is what I'm doing this for, right? So why am I qualified to make this video in the first place, you might ask? Well, some of you may know that I have been a manager for almost 30 years, and during that time I literally conducted hundreds and hundreds of interviews myself. I worked with HR managers to help them to set up profiles for hiring candidates, and as a consultant I helped companies and also individuals to either hire people or get hired, okay? Now, some of that was not in the 3D world, a big part of it was, but that said, that is why I think I have something to add here, okay? So when we look at companies in general, and this is not specific to 3D, but just in general, and this is kind of important. Well, it's all about supply and demand, and that's what commerce is, okay? So you are either, selling a service or product, and you want people to basically buy that. Now, if you look at how a company approaches that, they will either try to get a piece of that existing demand, or they will try to create demand. Now, creating demand is typically by coming up with something completely new, like for example stuff you see on Kickstarter, and when people want to get a piece of that demand, it's basically trying to get a piece of the market share that's already there. So how do they do that? Well, they usually run one or more processes to achieve a preset goal. Now, their goal could be to create a game or a movie or a commercial, whatever it is that they do. Now, regardless of that, what they do is they use a combination of things to achieve that. So it's products, it's hardware, it's software, it's people, artists, and so forth, okay? So what is their end game? What is their end goal? Well, their goal is to make it another day. So they want to be around next week, next year, 10 years from now. And what do they need in order to do that? They need continuity. So what does that mean? Well, that means that you need to make more money than what you spend, right? And then if you calculate those two, you end up with the profit, hopefully. And that profit will allow you to invest, pay people and so forth. So knowing all that, what does that make you? Well, believe it or not, but you are or should be a contributor to their desired continuity. That is your position, and that is the position where you want to be, because that is how you create a value. So is your value in the sense of, what they're going to pay you, is that, is your value higher than the cost? So are you profitable? Now, does that mean that you have a fixed setup price? No, it's kind of a balancing act here. For example, let's say you have very low wages, you are very, very cheap, but then again, you have no experience. Well, that can be a choice by a company that they want to go that way, because they can then train you internally and save costs that way. Maybe because they don't have a huge budget. Or if they do have budget, they will maybe choose someone that has a lot of experience, but then again is more expensive. Another pro or con, you can, for example, not be a team player, but at the same time be brilliant. So they can decide to hire you anyway and have you work on projects individually. So the message here is, if you feel that you have one trait that is, eliminating you from that marketplace, keep in mind that there are other traits that you can develop to balance that out, right? Okay, so what are obvious things that company never want? And this is kind of kicking open an open door, but what companies don't like are risks, or unnecessary risk, or risk with no or a low payoff. So, for example, people that are unreliable, opinionated, rude, lazy, drunk, high, etc., all of that hurts their desired continuity. And what are obvious things that companies do want? They want hardworking, honest, creative, dedicated, loyal, available, skilled people, and so on. Now, the problem there is that people are people. So they will typically be a mix of both. I haven't met anyone yet that just has positive traits. It's usually a mix. And as I said before, that is not necessarily a bad thing. They should balance each other out. So if you compare this to, let's say, buying a cake at a bakery, right? What an employer will do is they will go into the process of deciding that they want to buy a cake. And then they're going to say, okay, what are the ingredients? So, will I like it? Will I like the price? Will the bakery next door have a better cake? Now, how strange that sounds, they're basically talking about potential employees in the same way, right? Does that person fit into the team? Is that person positive? Will that work with our business culture and so on? One of the things I get asked all the time is, yeah, but what if I'm living in a different country? Will they still hire me? Well, with the modern technology nowadays, that doesn't have to be a problem at all. But there are a few things you need to set up before you get to there, right? So, one question I get a lot is, what about a personal appearance? Should I wear a suit and tie when I go to an interview? Well, my advice would be not to do that. I mean, as a 3D artist, you are typically a creative person, and it's totally okay to express your personality and creativity. It's actually essential that you express your personality, not necessarily in clothing, but you want to be a member of a team that has creative input and that is verbal and thinks out loud and so forth on occasion. So as an example, if you had, let's say, a banker or a lawyer with a purple mohawk, now that wouldn't be a great thing, typically speaking. I wouldn't mind that at all, but in the world we live in, usually that wouldn't work quite well. And in my experience, if you are a 3D artist, that is not a problem at all. It's a different thing if you're wearing clothing that is, dirty or your hygiene is off. Of course, that's going to be an issue, right? Okay, so let's talk about applying for the job. Now, first of all, you guys can ask me way more questions that I can ever answer in a video like this, okay? So I'm going to try and keep this kind of generic. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about 3D jobs in general, whether you are an animator, a modeler, a rigger, a lighter, and so forth. Okay, so if you're applying for a job, and let's say this is a job that you see online and you want to apply for it using an email or their online contact form or whatever, what I would certainly recommend is to use a cover letter or a cover story. Because if you just put in your resume, I worked here for so and so long, I did this, I did that, and whatnot, they have no sense at all who you are as a person. What kind of hobbies do you have? What makes you get up in the morning? That kind of stuff. And that will help them to get a kind of an image of who you are, and that way you'll stand out in my personal experience. Now, it's also very important to find out who will be reviewing their resumes or be doing the actual interview. There are basically two ways to go here. It's either a person doing a pre-screening. Let's say you got a technical expert, and then you would be talking to an HR manager doing a pre-screening for that technical expert. Chances are that the HR person that is doing the interview is going to ask you a lot more questions related to who you are as a person, where do you get your education, and so forth. Whereas you would have your interview with that technical person, you would get much different questions about software and user interface, preferences, that kind of stuff, right? And so that's important for that reason. Also, if you can throw something in the interview that tells that person that you did your homework, so you read about the company, you read about projects they worked on, you read on LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever that the person you're talking to is fond of horseback riding or whatever, it will kind of create, kind of a little bit of rapport, which always helps, okay? Now, As far as doing that homework, I heard of someone going into an interview at a company, and it was a game company, and then the candidate said, "You guys create games, right?" Well, if you're going to say something like that, it was best just to turn around in the parking lot and don't even bother. I mean, that is just simply stupid. You should do your homework. You should know exactly what they do. And although this sounds so obvious, it happens all the time. People don't know what the company does, what they're applying for. And one of the questions they're typically going to ask you is, why do you want to work here? I heard people say, well, because you guys are cool. Well, that doesn't tell them anything except that you didn't really prepare. What they are looking for is something in line of, I want to work here because you are specialized in a very specific technical aspect of the trade that I want to get more experience in, so I can, become better as an artist and grow and whatnot. Or you can say, because you got a certain team set up that's new to me, or anything that is related to them, basically. Okay, but keep it specific and keep it relevant. Now, then the big one here, the chicken and the egg. So if you don't have experience, you won't get hired, and nobody's going to hire you without experience. So what are you going to do? Now, first of all, make sure you have an ArtStation page and make sure you have a solid portfolio. And if you haven't had any projects yet, or you haven't been hired yet, what you do is you come up with a dummy project. So you come up with a theme or a project where you just pretend that it's a customer assignment, okay? And then you'll go through the entire process of concept work, maybe storyboards, maybe blocking out models, wireframe shot, beauty shots, render shots, lighting shots, and you put that all in a logical order, for example, on your ArtStation page, and you spend a lot of time on it to do it right. Now, don't put 50 projects on there, put one or two that are solid, okay? And that way, if I'm looking to hire somebody, I got a good idea of how that person is working, okay? So what else? Salary. Now, people will say, how much money should I ask? Well, again, do your homework. Salaries are very different depending on where you live and work. If you work in California, for a game studio, it's pretty likely that your wage is going to be very different than you working for a game studio in Wyoming or in, I don't know, other countries. So make sure you have a good understanding of what is the norm there. Now, how do you find out? Talking to other artists, participating in forums, networking, and so forth. Now, when it comes to networking, I cannot say this enough. Network. One of the reasons you don't get hired is that because people don't know that you exist. Now, besides having a portfolio on ArtStation, I would strongly recommend that you get on LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn used to be a suit and tie kind of environment. Nowadays, in my opinion, it's essential for 3D artists to have a solid LinkedIn page, but also to make sure that they build a strong network. So anybody you ever encounter in the 3D world, whether it is somebody you talked to on a 3D forum on Facebook or whatever, look them up on LinkedIn, link with them, exchange details, and keep on networking anywhere and everywhere. If you go to a business fair and there's a guy selling pen displays, ask for a business card, link with them on LinkedIn. Keep on going, keep on going, keep on going. I would even go as far as to say, spend an hour or an hour and a half every day of the week on LinkedIn to build up. And then people will know that you're there, they will know what you do, they will know whether you're good or not, and work will start to come in, right? Now, when it comes to interviews, what people tend to do all the time is they talk about me, I. Keep in mind that the person in front of you that is doing an interview with you, they are looking to spend money on something that will help them. So the focus of the meeting for you should be what they want. So instead of talking about yourself, because they will ask you about you, instead of talking about yourself, talk about them. What ask them, what are your company goals? What are the projects that you're working on? Why are you looking to fill in this position? What are your expectations? So first of all, you let them know that they matter. You let them know that you did your homework, and you let them know that you're very much focused on their continuity and on their goals, right? Okay, let's see another one, and I get this all the time as well. Do I need a degree? Now, the thing is this: if I say, for example, okay, I don't know, I've been baking bread for 30 years. Does that mean that the bread's any good? No, it means that I've been baking bread for 30 years. So that doesn't tell you anything. So when it comes to experience and people say, I worked in Maya for 10 years, well, you can still be bad at it, right? So what the industry typically does is they look at quality of work. Now, does a degree help? Of course it does. I mean, if you get your bachelor or master's, they know that there is a certain level that you need to achieve to get that diploma to begin with, right? So that will give them a good solid base. But it's not a guarantee that you're a good 3D artist. On the other hand, if you have no degrees whatsoever, you can still be a very good artist. So I wouldn't be too worried about that. Get education if you can, but if you cannot, don't be discouraged and just keep on going, right? So let's see what else. Okay, what software to learn? Well, usually people focus on what companies have. So if you're working in Maya and the company you're applying for the position, they work in 3ds Max, of course they're going to want you to work in 3ds Max, and they would like it if you had that experience. That said, I've seen people switch from Blender to Maya, from Maya to 3ds Max in a matter of days. So that should typically not be a huge thing. But that said, if you want to better your chances, it's always good to be able to work in multiples. But it's much more important, in my opinion, to understand workflow and pipeline, regardless of the software you use. So you know what steps are taken, you know the rules in a typical studio, if that's what you're going for, and that will help you, and co-workers will help you to get up to speed in no time, okay? Now, before you get to that point, you're going to be practicing a lot, because that's what you do. And what I would advise you to do is save your work. So build an archive. If you model a tree, save the tree, save the bench, save the chair, save the table, and whatnot. A couple of reasons. First of all, you will have a good archive and a good database, but more importantly, if you get asked to show some of your work, you can. Okay? So what else? Let's see. Ask for references after a job. If you have worked on a large project, small project, or even tiny project, always, always, always ask for a reference. That's a big help, because when I personally had an interview with a candidate, I would very much look at the references, because if I look at your profile and I see that your work is great, that doesn't tell me whether you are pleasant to work with or not. If I get letters from other people in the industry telling me that you are fantastic to work with, that's a really good thing. So that's why I would do that, right? So yeah, like I said, just a couple of things we went through here, and you will be able to ask many, many more questions that I can ever answer. So what I would like to conclude this video with is to please leave any questions that I did not cover. Leave it in the comments below this video, and I will promise to answer each and every one of them, how long that may take, okay? So I really hope that this video was helpful to you guys. It's very different than what I usually do. If you did enjoy it, please hit that like button. Share the video so other people can benefit from this as well. And that said, thank you so much for watching, and see you guys next time. Bye. Well, thanks for watching, and before you go, please hit that MH button to subscribe, okay? See you guys next time. Bye.